Right, what's going on, guys? Welcome to We Got a Problem. So I've seen some reports about left-wing activists trying to censor the Brexit Party MEP Ann Widdecombe's shows. Now this relates to comments she made in the Sky News interview last week, where she was misquoted by the interview regarding a 2012 article. Now in that article she said science might be able to help those in the gay community who are unhappy with being homosexual, like it has for the transgender community. Which of course the hard left-wing activists have gone batshit crazy over, as you can expect. Now, the host of the Politics Live show, Joe Coburn, brought up the topic to the panel, which consisted of the Tory MP Bim Afolami, Labour MP Andy McDonald, Brexit Party MEP Claire Fox, and City AM journalist Owen Bennett. They also have one of the activists on the show who has been protesting against Ann Widdecombe's shows in an attempt to censor her. Of course, the BBC don't do an honest job of reporting it, so let's check out the first clip from the Politics Live show.
Something else. We're going to talk about Ann Widdecombe. She's your colleague, of course, in the Brexit Party. And let's listen to what she had to say to Neil Patterson on Sky's Ridge on Sunday programme about a week ago.
The fact that we now think it is quite impossible for people to switch sexuality doesn't mean that science may not yet produce an answer at some stage. That was the thruster. No,
Just to be clear, you are saying that there is a possibility that science may decide that we can change sexuality.
I don't know any more than people once knew whether it was possible for men to become women.
Sorry, let me just stop that there. The BBC have included the bare minimum regarding Ann Widdecombe's comment on the subject, which is of course no surprise. Context is not important to the BBC unless it's their comedian that needs context to protect her from a joke. Now let me show you the full question and response of the Sky News interview.
You wrote a newspaper column in 2012 where you talked again about gay conversion therapy. You suggested that the unhappy homosexual should, according to gay activists, be denied any chance whatsoever to investigate any possibility of seeing if he can be helped to become heterosexual. Now, I don't even need to ask you whether or not that's still your view. The fact that you expressed it means that plenty of people would not want to share a platform with you.
And I also pointed out that there was a time when we thought it was quite impossible for men to become women and vice versa. And the fact that we now think it is quite impossible for people to switch sexuality doesn't mean that science may not yet produce an answer at some stage. That was the thruster. No,
Just to be clear, you are saying that there is a possibility that science may decide that we can change sexuality.
I don't know any more than people once knew whether it was possible for men to become women. I don't know, and I've never claimed, and this is where I'm misrepresented quite often, I've never claimed that such science already exists. I've never claimed that. I've merely said that if you simply rule out the possibility of it, you're denying people who are confused about their sexuality or discontented with it the chances that you do give to people who want to change gender. Now, that's all I've said. I do not imagine for one moment that the Brexit Party will be putting forward a policy on gay sex changes in its manifesto. We have health, we have education.
I suspect it will have a policy on equality, though, won't it?
You're just completely looking for things that actually do not determine people's votes. What determines people's votes are the big policies, and we will have that. And while you're talking about standing on the same platform as Claire Fox, she has said in the past some things which might be interpreted as giving aid and succour to the IRA.
Indeed.
I lost a darn good friend in the Brighton bomb. I myself missed it by 20 minutes. I can stand on a platform with her because we're united in our aim to get Britain out of the EU. And in case anybody out there is forgetting it, that is the aim of the Brexit Party.
Now, with the full question and answer, we have some context. As the interviewer said, the article related to gay conversion therapy, specifically on how, according to gay activists, unhappy homosexuals should be denied any chance to see if they can become heterosexual. Now, of course, the BBC did not show that on the Politics Live show because they want to continue to further their agenda, so they will only show little bits of the interview that make Ann look like she's against LGBT rights. You see, during the Sky interview, a fuckpig reporter attempts a Kathy Newman with the good old "so you're saying" line, knowing full well that's not what Ann said. Her point was she does not know if there will be a scientific solution for people who are unhappy with their sexuality, and how the gay rights activists attempt to stop members of the gay community getting help to deal with any issues they have that are making them unhappy. Now, I expect they would get the usual smearing campaigns and harassment, which we all know these activists loves to do, if they tried to come out and say they were unhappy with their sexuality. But let's not dwell on the Sky News clip. Let's get back to the Politics Live show.
Right, well, that was Ann Widdecombe on Sky. Her comments caused outrage, led to cancellations of parts of her speaking tour, which she has been undertaking around the country. One place she did appear, though, last night was in Lytham St Anne's, and that's despite protests. One of those demonstrating, I think we can talk to him, is Shay Naylor, who is in Blackburn. Shay, tell us, why were you protesting against Ann Widdecombe's appearance in Lytham St Anne's last night?
Well, it's mainly an argument about what is and isn't acceptable speech. So, of course, I believe in freedom of speech. I think it's one of the fundamentals of a fair democracy. But what a lot of people seem to not realise is freedom of speech isn't a one-way street. She has the freedom to say what she wants. We have the freedom to protest against that.
Protesting, though, is one thing. Empty chairing people, cancelling events is another. Do you have the right, and do people have the right to cancel events like the one that Ann Widdecombe was going to be taking part in just because you don't agree with her?
Well, there is a discussion on where the line of freedom of speech is drawn. I was talking to the theatre head, and he said he believes that it's criminal action. I believe it's where you spread a message which could damage a protected group of people. The protest last night, would I have preferred to see it cancelled? Yes, I'll openly admit that, but the protest was about supporting the LGBTQ plus community in times which have frankly not been great for the community. We've seen a rise in hate crime after the Brexit vote.
All right, Shay, I'm going to put that to Claire. What do you...
So we heard from the soy boy activist with the confidence of a limb dick, who led the protests against Ann. He has a problem with Ann because he thinks her speech is not acceptable, while in the same breath claiming he believes in free speech as one of the fundamentals of democracy, calling it a two-way street. Excuse me, idiot. How is it a two-way street when you slimy toads are contacting venues and calling them bigots if they don't cancel the appearance of someone you don't like? We are seeing the same on YouTube in regards to the idiot from Vox trying to get YouTube shut down, so he can censor people who hurt his delicate feelings, the snivelling tosspot. It's the type of behaviour we are seeing more and more with these dirty little shitweasels though, both here and across the pond. Ann is being targeted because she called out the gay rights activists who are oppressing people that might be unhappy with their sexuality or confused by it, since these activists deny any suggestion some gay people might be unhappy with their sexuality. They are trying to censor and deplatform Ann to protect their reason for existing, and of course the media will push this because, like most MPs, they are Ramonas doing all they can to smear the Brexit party. Now, the editors have to virtue signal to the blue check marks on Twitter and rabid left lunatics amongst the BBC staff, so what can we expect? These BBC staff then radicalise activists by their reports to petition venues Ann or other people are booked at to speak in order to censor her speech or the other people's speech and label them bigots. When that fails, they block the entrances to venues in an attempt to stop the event happening. He claims he is justified in ignoring Ann's right to free speech because her words could damage a protected group of people. When, as I already said, her article was not a statement against the LGBT community, so that's just silly. But we know from what he said that this loser is a Ramona looking for something to be outraged by. Because Ann is a member of the Brexit party, I suppose that's what he's after her for. He doesn't really care about what she said, I expect. Now, he proved that, as I said, by blaming Brexit for his claimed rise in hate crimes, which I expect any rise in hate crime is down to the fact the police arrest people for arguing with these demented activists on Twitter. They are not hate crimes, they are someone thinking someone else is an idiot and telling them that. Some police forces can't fight real crime, they have to police Twitter instead because priorities, I guess. Now, I'm getting really sick of these shitweasels blaming everything on Brexit. It was about leaving the EU, so in no way was it going to cause an increase in crimes against the LGBT community. How do these people make the bloody connection? It doesn't make any sense. Let me get on to the next clip before I go on the tangent, though.
Say to that, Claire, in terms of inciting hatred, the comments that Ann Widdecombe making that there might be a cure in the future for gay people.
I don't think they're inciting hatred. I think it's a matter of freedom of conscience. I think that the protest is perfectly acceptable. I mean, I agreed with that point. I think it's interesting because the guy who ran the theatre last night made a very important point. He talked about the many years of fighting censorship in the theatre. I was involved in an event organised by the Welsh National Opera, who got a freedom event on, and it was about artistic freedom. And we talked about how in the old days it was the kind of bigots who tried to stop, for example, plays depicting homosexuality in the past. And I just think it is absolutely dangerous to be in a situation today whereby we try and unplatform, deplatform people, stop them speaking. I mean, go and argue by all means, because we find their views offensive. I think that's a dangerous precedent to set.
I agree with the point about censorship in theatre. I think it was a horrible thing that happened in the past, but I don't think Ann Widdecombe's comments are exactly helping against censorship, really. I think it's more we've taken one step forward, two steps back, in a sense.
Do you think, and do you agree with Ann Widdecombe's comments personally? What do you think of them?
No, of course I don't.
Right.
But I mean, the one thing that was made me bemused was that everyone was shocked by Ann Widdecombe's views, having watched her on Sophie Ridge. I mean, I don't know about anyone else, but I watched her on Celebrity Big Brother, let alone the fact she's Ann Widdecombe. She's not some sort of, you know, she's been involved in politics for many years. And
she's now an MEP. She's now an MEP, of course, so she's representing the Brexit party. Do you think the party should have taken a stronger stand against her, knowing what she's like when it comes to talking about this particular subject?
No, because actually one of the important things the Brexit Party stood for was trying to say that democracy was under threat. Now, the point is, it seems to me that it doesn't matter what you think on any issue. If, for example, the whole of society voted one way in relation to a more socially liberal view on LGBTQ or any other equality issues, and Parliament were able to ignore those democratic votes, that was the bottom line. So we were standing, and I absolutely stand by her. I think her comments were taken out of context. The whole interview is not quite as it said, but I don't agree with her. But that's an argument. That's what politics is like. And freedom of religion and freedom of conscience are things that are important bedrocks for a democratic society.
Unless people think they're undermining people's rights. Andy, what do you think? Do you think
she was on Sky News making a comment. I mean, she wasn't campaigning for that to be Brexit Party policy or opposing a vote. She was saying what she believed in answer to a journalistic question.
What would gay people think listening to Ann Widdecombe? I mean, would that make them vote for the Brexit Party, do you think?
Well, first of all, some of the gay candidates and some of the gay MEPs would not agree with her, would tell her, but they would not shrivel away. These things are a matter of argument and discussion and freedom.
So from the start of that clip, the show host Jo Coburn misrepresents what Ann said completely by insinuating that she had said there might be a cure for gay people, when, as I've already said, and you see in the full response earlier, she did not say that at all. She said science might be able to help those who are unhappy with their sexuality. This slimy host is completely deceiving the BBC viewers by using a tiny portion of Ann Widdecombe's response earlier in the show that featured a select phrase they can use to plant the BBC's stance in the minds of the BBC viewers, to push their narrative that the Brexit Party is about hate and division, which is disgusting. We all know it's standard procedure, as I've said before, from the Buyers Broadcasting Corporation, though. Now, I like how Claire Fox responds to this, likening the activist who tries to stop Ann's appearance to the bigots who used to stop gay theatre productions. You can see he is not happy with her response, but he knows she is right, and his response makes no sense in relation to what she said. Jo Coburn then moves on to asking if the Brexit Party should take a harder stance on Ann and her views, likely insinuating Ann should be removed from the Brexit Party. It's a common tactic by these dirty smear merchants. They aim to divide and conquer, but I don't think it will work with the Brexit Party, as they will have all likely been told the media and mainstream parties will attempt to smear all of them and turn them against each other, and I expect they've been told to ignore it, because I'm sure Farage and the people at the top of the Brexit Party I know what the BBC and the rest of the left-wing media are like. Now, Claire finishes the clip pointing out that the clip shown is out of context, which I've already pointed out multiple times, and she should have really pointed out earlier, in my opinion, as soon as they showed it.
Should the shows have been cancelled, or should she have been allowed to speak?
Well, I just deal with the issue in front of me, which is that she said the most repugnant thing.
But the question I'm asking is, should she be prevented from saying them? Should the shows, the conversation be cancelled?
I can very much understand why people say you're not getting a platform on this event. That's a dreadful thing to say. We've spent all these years trying to make progress on these issues, and she comes out with this glib comment that effectively there's a scientific cure for homosexuality.
But there's lots of views that I don't find acceptable. For example, some of them by your colleagues, but I don't think they should be banned.
Well, so people should be free to promote that
But you know, of all the controversy in the Labour Party around anti-Semitism, would we be in a situation where I'd say, I can't possibly go on the programme with you because you're in a party that's been
I'm here
so
with you.
cavalier?
It's up to you. Exactly. It's up to me to speak, to call it out and condemn anti-Semitism, and it would be good to hear you say that this was repugnant, repellent language, and don't associate yourself with it, end of. And she shouldn't be out there as a Brexit
I know that the Labour Party is
personality.
greatly into this kind of denounce and ridicule everyone. I've said I don't agree with Ann Widdecombe on her views that relate to her religious faith on homosexuality at all.
But you would have been...
However, I believe in religious freedom. I don't know about you, but I think that's very, very, very important.
Is that a justification, enough justification, to say that Ann Widdecombe is a devout Christian and these are sincerely held beliefs and she should be allowed to express them?
Well, to be honest, I don't actually think it's an issue of justification or not. This is really a free speech issue. You know, I remember when Nick Griffin, when the BNP were riding high, I remember when he appeared, I think it was on Question Time. That was the best advert for why you should not vote BNP. You know, because we saw his views and he was challenged on them and he was ridiculed by large numbers of people. That's how we should approach these things. You know, I find it very depressing that it's happening across university campuses, a lot in the country, this idea that there are views that shouldn't even be put. It's very dangerous, because who gets to decide what those are? Either a sort of authority like we had in the old days of the Lord Great Chamberlain stopping things in the theatre, or the mob. And actually, if you disagree with a view, and I disagree with Ann Widdecombe's views for the record, if you disagree with the view, allow it to be debated, allow it to be talked about, because that is the difference between us and other countries, or indeed the Labour Party.
Andy?
Well said.
Well, you've got to be careful. If you trespass into criminal activity, are you going to be saying that those sorts of things, inciting racial hatred and you pushing that sort of message out, that's going to be perfectly legitimate?
Is that what you see this as an example of?
I'm taking the point. I'm asking you the point. So anything goes, so you could be trying to whip up an argument to direct your attention towards one particular group or another. And you say, well that's freedom of speech, that's perfectly... Okay. It's actually against the law.
And in fact, you know how ridiculous that is, because nobody is arguing that we should be able to shout fire in a crowded theatre. What I'm saying is, if you have people who are expressing a view about something, they are not inciting action, they're expressing a view. And
so you'd agree that if you trespass into incitement, you would stop there?
Because, well, that's illegal, and I didn't say that we should do illegal things. What I'm saying is, you cannot start policing people's views unless they incite action, and that's what we have in the law. I think it's a very, very, very dangerous place to get to.
We're going to leave it there. Shay, thank you very much.
Now, we heard from the Labour MP and lifelong communist fuckpig Andy Robertson, who has the audacity to say Ann's comments are disgraceful, when he would readily sit there defending the Labour MP Lisa Forbes, who is being investigated herself for saying something against political correctness. Now, he insinuates Ann said science could cure gay people, which, as I've said and have shown, is not what she said at all. The Labour MP is determined that it's okay to censor people you don't agree with or whose views you think are disgraceful, which we all know is something both Labour and the Conservative Party use as a tactic when they can't defeat someone's point of view. We are seeing it more and more from mainstream media cucks and politicians. We then heard from Tory Mp Bim, who absolutely destroys the shitweasel Labour MP's stance on censorship. He starts off rubbishing the idea that any speech needs to be justified, stating it's about the freedom to speak, which gives you the chance to rebut these ideas that you disagree with. I mean, in that clip, you can see the soy boy's face when they show him side by side with the Tory MP talking about trying to ban free speech at university. Seeing someone who is in his deranged mind, the victim, standing up for free speech and all viewpoints and doing it with confidence and conviction, that goes against the whole narrative. That must have really hurt. Now, I've not heard much about this Tory MP Bim, but I like how he shits on both the Labour MP and the soy boy activists' attempts to justify their smearing and deplatforming of anyone who opposes their radical communist views. I guess there are some level-headed MPs in the Conservative Party that won't bow down to these politically correct shitweasel. Well done to him for that. Now, near the end of the clip, you see the communist Labour MP attempt to double down and bring in the race card, which you can tell by the Tory MP's face he is not happy about, and he shuts down his nonsense attempt with ease. Why does the Labour Party send these idiots to these shows when they just make themselves look stupid? It baffles me. So that's going to be the end of the videos, guys. We had yet more bias from the BBC, completely misrepresenting what the Brexit MEP Ann Widdecombe had said in the Sky News interview. We also had a soy boy activist and Labour MP getting dismantled by a Tory MP and Brexit Party MEP over their attempts to censor the views they disagree with, because their own ideology does not stand up to scrutiny. Now let me know what you guys think down in the comments section below. Leave a like and share the video as it helps a lot, and I will see you all in the next video.